Okay, we're live.
We have an amazing lineup of some really, really cool guests. In this season, I want to totally spotlight law enforcement. We're going to kick it off with Wayne Bullier, who is from the Police Academy across the street, Broward College. So he's going to talk about entry-level training, recruit training, what goes into the curriculum. A whole bunch of other guests that are going to come on that are going to talk about family relationships within police families. And we're going to have our very own dean on, Dr. Durham. Remember, this is the brainchild of Dr. Durham to do investigation with Dr. T. It's her idea. She is going to talk about what is it like to be a mother of a first responder. One of the things that I really hope the audiences will come away with is an understanding and an appreciation and an empathic view of police officers.
Okay, so I am so psyched because tonight we have the Davie Police Power Couple. I'm calling them that. They don't call themselves that, but I'm calling them that. We have a very special partnership and relationship and collaboration with the Davie Police Department, and I hope that they see me as part of the family, because certainly we see them as part of the NSU family. So tonight I have retired Captain Sean Ravine with me, and Lieutenant Patricia Ravine. And Captain Ravine began his law enforcement career in '94, serving both Hallandale and Davie Police. Over the years, he held leadership roles on road patrol, criminal investigations, IA, internal affairs, youth services, ultimately retired as the patrol division commander just last year. Throughout his career, Captain Ravine received multiple commendations, several Officer of the Month awards, prestigious Chiefs Award, and he was also honored with the Community Service Award for his efforts in assisting victims of Hurricane Michael. Though he's retired, he serves now as a reserve detective for the Davie Police Department, and he's been married to his wife, Lieutenant Patricia Ravine, for 13 years, and they have 4 kids, Jamie, Alyssa, Megan, and Jake, and recently welcomed their first, I can't even believe this because they're certainly not old enough to welcome their first granddaughter, right? Am I saying it right? Alea, I think it's Alea. Alea Renee. Alea Renee. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's got a rhyme to it. And so Lieutenant Patricia Ravine has served with the Davie Police Department since 2007. She's held leadership roles across patrols, special ops, administrative support divisions, and she holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice management. She's pursuing a master's in law enforcement and public safety leadership at the University of San Diego. And as soon as she gets that, hopefully we can have her come and teach for us. We would love that. She has been recognized throughout her career with several commendations, multiple Officer of the Month awards, prestigious Purple Heart. She was also awarded the Philip Collum Award for Leadership in Academics for her Modern Public Safety Leadership Department's body-worn camera program, digital evidence unit, and crisis intervention team training. I mean, oh my gosh, can I please have this power couple come on? And, I just want to really say this about Lieutenant Patricia Ravine, and that is that she's the one that has coordinated our community police academy, where we have our students take a undergraduate special topics class, and then they go through the training that a police officer would experience, but they get to rub elbows with the Davie Police and get to see all of the amazing units and all of that. But I just want to say thank you, Patty, for no matter what it is that we come up against, you're just so gracious and just kind. And it's an amazing partnership that we have. And I just want to tell you that I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. T.
So tell us, and we'll start with Sean, because he's retired.
The older one.
We got to give props to the older person in the room. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm probably the older person in the room. But anyway, tell us, Sean, a little bit about what attracted you to become a cop. Like, what was it about it? Was it something you always wanted to do? And then after you finish, pass the baton to Patty, and she can answer why she was attracted to policing.
So it's a little interesting. When I was little, I had a dream. I always wanted to be a Secret Service agent. I used to dress up in a suit with my little things in my ear and my sunglasses, and that was all I ever wanted to do. So when I finished high school and I went to college, I was like, maybe you have to have a degree to become a Secret Service agent. So I had to have a bachelor's degree before I could become an agent. So I'm like, all right, so I think if I became a cop, I would get some street experience, um, some some knowledge that would probably help me in the end. So I went to the police academy. I put myself through. I was one of the few individuals in my academy class that wasn't hired yet. And I went through the entire academy, and then I finally got hired with Hallandale Police Department. And then when I was on the streets working in Hallandale, I kind of got this connection, like with people, like helping people and like doing good. Like it was very different for me. Like I that's not what I was intended to want to. I envisioned myself as always being the guy like standing next to the president or standing in a room, and then just that was my job. But that's where I was like, you know what? I really like police work, and I don't know that I want to do the federal level. So I stayed, and instead of going to take the exams, I applied with Davie because the Davie Police Department was at the time Hallandale didn't have the 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 casino. They just had the racetrack. So they weren't really, the city was small. It was 4 by 4 square miles. There was no real growth because there was nothing coming in. So I didn't see a future there. So I was like, Davie was growing. Places were being built, houses were being built, streets were being, built. I was like, this is a place to go. And they had a vision of being a 200-man police department by the year 2000. That was the goal that they had originally told us. So I was like, this is the place I'm going to go. And then I applied, and this is where my career has been. And I've loved every minute of it.
Excellent. Excellent. Patty, what about you? Same?
So no, so for me, I actually wanted to be a doctor. And unfortunately, circumstances of life didn't allow for that. In my early years of life, some things happened in my family. My mom ended up moving away. I actually ended up getting married very young. I was married in my early 20s. I had already had 2 children. So trying to like find the finances for school just wasn't going to work out for me. So I'm like, oh, what else can I do? And I was really intrigued actually by crime scene technology, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a detective, not really understanding like there's a whole process to become a detective. So then I met a friend at the gym, and he ended up talking to me and recruiting me into police work. And so I put in some applications for Pembroke Pines, Sunrise, and Davie, and all three were kind of on track with one another for the process. Davie got to me first. I mean, I think the county that we live in is a beautiful county. Fortunately, Davie was a great opportunity for me because it's centrally located. We have a beautiful scenery here, and it's a beautiful city. We have a lot of support from our community here, so it ended up being a win for me. Plus, I met this guy here.
So that's a great segue into, so how did you guys meet? Did you meet at Davie at Davie Police?
We did. So Sean was newly promoted, and I had just come off of FTO, and the detective that was here at the time who did the hiring for me, I happened to be coming in to drop off paperwork, and they were coming out, and me being ignorant to anything with like supervisor patches and stuff like that, I didn't know who he was. So I had walked
Didn't
by.
see the chevrons up there that said sergeant.
I didn't know what they were. So I like didn't even really address him when I walked by him. And then just a little bit of time went on, and I worked a couple shifts on his shift and got to know him personally, and we had some conversation, and he was telling me that he was going, this is the funny part about how this evolved in our romance. He was telling me he was going through a divorce and telling me that he was going to his sister's wedding by himself, and he was like all upset that he had to go by
Oh
himself.
my God.
Hey, I'll go with you. And he's like,
Wow.
I address and I'll go with you. And then here we
Big
are.
shock. Like,
17 years later.
So originally you didn't know how to address him, but Did you figure out how to undress him?
I did actually.
Okay, great. Okay. I just thought I'd throw that in. But that's really awesome. That's awesome. And so how long are you guys together? I know we said it in the intro, but just how long you been together? How many children?
So
All
we're
of that.
together 17 years. We have been married for 13 years. When we met, we had each had two children. Mine were 4 and 5, his were 3 and 6. So we've grown up, our kids have grown up together with us. So we had not only the complication of shift work and police work, but also the complication of trying to have a blended family in a law enforcement environment, which is, a little bit of a challenge in itself.
Absolutely. Well, so that's another great segue into the next my next question, which would be like, how do you balance? How are you balancing police work? Police work is it's it's not simple. It's
Not
not simple. It's a little bit complex and very, very demanding. So how do you balance the demands of that high level kind of work with marriage and raising children?
So I think earlier in our career together, when our kids were younger, fortunately, both of our spouses before we were together grew up in this profession with us. So they already had the understanding of what it was like being a parent in police work. So there was a lot of support from them. They had the children on our work days. So we didn't really have to worry about childcare for our work days, and our shifts didn't really make much of an issue for us. So we had the kids on our days off when they were younger. As they got older, the kids, their time sharing changes or whatever. Unfortunately, we live in the city in which we work. So when they were old enough to stay home, it became less complicated for us. And then we could work a day shift together and we could be together. But like earlier in the years, one of us worked midnight shift, one of us worked day shift. And it was like just seeing each other in passing. And, the benefit was we had a little bit of time during the overlap, for the afternoon time. But
Yeah, maybe had a dinner together or, high fiving when we go through the door. Okay, it's your turn. Okay, it's your
Mm,
turn. Because the kids were
mm,
too young to stay home alone. So we just had opposite shifts, which I think what really helped was at the time when we met, I had some seniority still here. I was a sergeant. Um, I was a brand new sergeant, but then as time went on, I grew with seniority as a sergeant. So I was able to like pick a shift and be able to pick an opposite one that she would work so that it would
right.
work until she got promoted to sergeant. Then it kind of got a little
Yeah.
difficult for us.
yeah.
Right, right, right. So any relationship doesn't it's not police specific, but any relationship, marriage, partnership, whatever it might be, intimate relationship is what I'm talking about. It's great when it's great. It's great when there's like really nothing going on. It's great when there's no stressors, but to, put a stressor in there, whatever that is, whatever the frustration is, maybe long shifts, maybe insomnia, maybe not getting a good night's rest, maybe there's a problem financially, whatever it might be. And you don't have to get into the personal here, just to ask the question, has the relationship ever been tested because of the job?
For me, I can say like having worked midnight shift and then trying to balance a home life, I think especially as a mother was very challenging when you're not getting any sleep, or when you the time you need to sleep during the day, the kids have to go to doctor's appointments and he's working the day shift, and just trying to navigate that. It becomes very trying when you're not rested, or when you're like, for me, being young in my career, I would get forced over for overtime, and then it's like trying to manage the childcare issues that came with that.
And also the trying not to bring the stress of the job home with you.
Yes.
And some of the things, a little bit of funny thing is we were both at the time. I was the supervisor for the crisis response team, so the hostage negotiation team. She was one of the negotiators on the team. And many times when we would like start to have arguments, we would be, "Hey, don't use that on me. Don't use that hostage negotiation stuff on me because we're trying to like, like negotiate out of each other like when we're having arguments." But I think that was like the hardest part was like this trying to keep the stress from the job to come home. because the job is very, very stressful. It's probably the most amazing job. I know when it's portrayed on TV a certain way or it's portrayed in the media a certain way, but the job itself is probably the greatest job you could ever have in your life. I mean, you are you you see everything of anything in society. You're there at people at their best, at their worst, at and you can help them, you could arrest them, you could change their lives. There's so many things that go on, and the job is, they look to you like you're not just a police officer. Everybody looks to a police officer, fix everything, fix my life. They call 911 and they go, I'm at my worst, I need you to fix me. Or they're having a fight with their spouse, you need to fix their relationship. So there's a lot of stress that comes with that job, and you just can't bring it home. And that's probably the hardest part of this job.
And the kids are impacted deeply by that as well, because
How?
when you're not rested, or when you've had a long day, or when you've seen one of those events that involve a child that's the same age as yours, and you bring that home, like, your kids can feel the stressors that you've had from your day that you're trying not to take out on them or take out on your spouse. And the benefit, I think, for us both being in this profession, being married to each other, is that we understand there's going to be days like that. And so we can kind of be a little more sensitive to, like, I know what kind of calls for service he had that day, or I had that day. And then you can come home and talk about it. And you talk about, like, when you consider, how do you navigate the stressors that you feel during your day? I don't know if we're going to segue into that at some point, I imagine, but there's got to be outlets for us to address those stressful times that we have, so that we don't impact our home life.
Exactly.
For our kids.
Exactly. Go ahead, Sean.
It's very stressful for our children as well, because we live in the city in which we work. So when our kids were young, people with their friends and everyone would see us in a uniform, and we would go to schools. We were very involved in our children's school, always trying to be involved. We were room parents and everything. So when they were young, their friends were like, "Oh, they're the cool parents, they're the cool cops." But as they got older, when the kids started to not like police, then it started to be stressful for the kids. And then they would come home, if they would get teased, or they would get picked on, or they would get bullied at school because their parents are cops. And then we would have to, we have to navigate that as well. So
Right.
it wasn't easy. I mean, our kids have turned out to be wonderful adults. They're the greatest. But it was tough. It was very
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. I mean, I know, what we see, when I say we, being retired, even though it was like 20 something years ago that I retired, probably even more than that. I don't even know. 2003. Let's see. 2003 minus 2025 is what?
Yeah.
23 years ago? No. Whatever it is. It was a long time ago, but I still feel like part of it, so it's still in me. I can't take it out. It's like the New Yorker, the Italian, and the cop. Can't take it out of me.
Yeah.
So during 9/11 and the work, being a first responder at Ground Zero for like a year and a half, you couldn't come home and you couldn't talk about it. You really couldn't. There were some things and sights and sounds and smells that you just couldn't. You didn't want to like scare the crap out of your family. You just don't. So you can't really talk about it, which is, you could talk about it with each other because you guys get it, right? You get each other, but also it might even be, well, let me ask you what you think. I mean, when you had a stressful thing, like a really devastating critical incident or traumatic event, were you able to come home and kind of talk about it together, not in front of the kids, but together? Or did you feel like it was also like, I want to leave it there, I don't want to bring it here?
Oh, no, I think we talked very often about experiences that we had at work, whether it be professional experiences, with interagency issues, or if it were things that we dealt with out on the road or whatever. We did a pretty good, and still do a really good job of talking about, like, our day. Like, I'm texting him throughout the day, remind me to tell you this when I get home, remind me to tell you that when I get home, while he's golfing every morning. But
or running situations by each other, like when we would do that, I would be on a call or something and she wouldn't be working, and I would be, like, hey, this is going on, what do you think if I do this? And then, or she would do the same thing, and we'd be like, yeah, that's a good idea, but what do you think about this? Because she's really good at thinking outside the box, like a big picture thinker. So I would always go, hey, am I missing something? And then she would always say, yes, you're missing this. And I was like, perfect, boom.
Or no, you're
Wow.
doing Yeah.
Or yeah, it would be helpful,
Yeah, yeah. That's great. Well, like raising children with this, like add that ingredient, right, into everything that you've just now talked about. Tell me, has being in law enforcement changed how you parent?
I would say definitely so.
Oh,
We were those parents that like our kids were not sleeping in anybody's houses. Our kids, if you were going to go over, we were meeting the parents. When our daughters, we have 3 daughters and a son. The 3 daughters are the oldest, the boy's the youngest. When the girls wanted to go, when they got a boyfriend, and they wanted to go spend time at the boyfriend's house, like we're going over and we're meeting the family, and we want to know where these people come from and what influence or impact or safety issues are there, any concerns for our kids, just because you're always on that like heightened awareness because of what you see out in the field of policing. You're just so, I think, overprotective. We were definitely overprotective. I'm a very type A personality, like very like hardcore with my kids. Like, I had high expectations of them and I expected them to do what they're supposed to do and to be good people and to treat people with kindness. And
Well, we even wanted to know like their boyfriends, like what's their tag number to their car. And they're like, why do you need to know that?
Oh,
Why
yeah.
do you need to know what that is? That's against my privacy. I'm like, no, because if you go missing, we have somewhere to look, like
Yeah.
we're not, I mean, it's crazy, but we see it. So
Yeah.
we were like, we're just protecting you. We're not going to do anything with it. We want to know their last name. It wouldn't be like, oh, Bill is my boyfriend. Well, what's Bill's last name? Where does he live? This one would give them the detective, riot act, and every question, where are you going? What are you gonna do? What time are you gonna be back?
I need a copy of his license and his social
Yes, oh
security
my
card.
God, I can't believe you said that because I had a copy of everybody's license that took my kid in their car. 100%.
Yeah, she
You
did.
listen, our children are young adults. They're aged 20 to 24 and they
That's right.
still have Life 360 on their phones.
So now, like, did they like give you a hard time? Like, come on, man. Like,
all the time.
All the time.
Yes.
Very,
so you're
very.
not cool. Were you still cool or not cool?
No, I think we're cool. You know what was great is that
Not when they were 16.
no, that's terrible. Oh gosh. We actually took our oldest and her boyfriend with us on a cruise last week, and then she had said to us that she understood why when she started dating her boyfriend. They've been together since like early years of high school, but now as a 24-year-old adult, she understands like why we made the efforts to get to know who they were with or spending time with and the families these people came from. Like it was interesting just to see the evolution as they're getting older and their cognitive function is fully developing, that they
How
get it.
old are they? How old are they? Can you tell me the ages again?
20, 21, 22, and 24.
Well, they're adults now. I mean, they're young adults, but growing up, what
Oh,
was it? What was it like for the online situation, the social media situation,
Oh,
all of
wow.
that?
they had passwords to everything, but let me tell you, they're very clever. They know how to navigate with VPNs and all this stuff to circumvent everything.
Got around our
Like,
Wi-Fi,
they could out police us at times.
yeah. We limited there were certain apps that they couldn't use, and that we would have parental stuff on their phones, but they found ways. They found ways to get around everything. But you know
What
what?
about
They ultimately always got caught because
Mm.
we're smarter than that. And we always tell them, we're smarter than you. We do this for a living. You know what we do for a living? And like a lot of times, because when my kids were young, I was a detective. So I would be like, you know what I do for a living, right? You know what your father does? I'm gonna figure it out. I can read you, and then they still thought they were smarter than us, but they got
so
away
then
for a short amount of time.
so then how did it, because I know that, like mother daughter stuff, father son stuff, like, the closeness, the um trust. I'm going to confide in you. Like, I feel like I can confide in you because we have that kind of really cool relationship, me and, mom, or me and dad, or whatever. So did this impact that, or did it come out good?
All of our kids went through, despite how protective we were, despite how we tried to role model for them, they all went through their own like stages of doing rebellious things that they shouldn't have done, like got in trouble. And it did affect it. It did affect it, but they all learned from it real quick.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I'll be completely honest with you. One of my kids ended up getting arrested when she was 15 years old for breaking into cars. And I got a phone call from the police department that day, and she was actually with her dad. And I'm like, it sounds like you have your hands full. I'm not coming. As a matter of fact, put the handcuffs on her and take her.
But she learned from that very quickly. And
Yeah.
she's actually going to be a firefighter paramedic now.
Yeah.
So she,
Oh,
it was just one time.
I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds terrible, but I felt like it was my obligation, especially our children. Like, our children should have known better than to do those silly things. You know better than that. And we told them, like, you get a free pass for a ticket. I'll make a call for you, whatever, but you get arrested, you're on your own. Don't call me because I'm not coming. Not because I don't love you, but it's my obligation to teach you what you're going to need to be a good human being in the future. And so
Wow.
that
Yeah.
your circumstance, and I'll tell you, she comes to me still today and she's like, Mom, I am so grateful that you didn't come and save me that day. Because like he just said, she's the one that she just graduated fire academy, paramedic, EMT. She's sitting for her certification, her exam
Fabulous.
soon, and she learns from that one mistake. And it
Sure.
sucks because I think to some degree, children of law enforcement believe that they get like that free pass or they have that way out. For us, we made a pact, like that wasn't going to happen. We're not going to be those parents that are going to take police work out of it. I think probably just naturally, but I'm sure that being an officer impacted it even more because I held them to a different standard. I think I definitely held my kids to a very high standard. I wasn't the easiest mom for them, but I think that created or developed who they are today. Why are you smiling?
Sean, you agree?
Yes, she had high standards. She has high standards for everybody, me too, of
Huh.
course. But yeah, our kids are where they are today because of her standards. I had standards that's not as high as she did, but I think they're all excelling today because of her, and they always want to please her, and it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to please.
Well, that's a challenge too, because then when you're a parent like that, where you have such high expectations and your children feel like they can never reach or they can never please your standards, that definitely becomes troublesome. So something that I've had to be cognizant of throughout my career and raising my kids is like not to like over police them. Give them some latitude to make mistakes and learn from it without being overly authoritarian over them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Remember that they are kids. They're not grown people that are going to make good decisions all the time. And
They do stupid things, but and each and every one of them has already said multiple times, like, I'm so thankful for you guys because I know what I did was stupid and that's so stupid. But I've learned from it. And they don't make the same mistake as long as they don't keep doing it. I mean, I think it's a success for us. I
That's
mean,
great. We
right?
need more parents like you in today's day and age.
well, I definitely think that our positions or our career choice have significantly impacted how much harder we were on them.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So let's transition into the fact that policing has stressors. And some of the stressors, as we know, are, the danger of police work, just the danger, the work itself, right? Then you've got the intra-organizational stress, which sometimes is worse. Like, I'd rather be in a shootout, shoot at me from this happened actually in the projects in Brooklyn, snipers on the roof shooting at the cops as they were getting into their personal cars to go home. Fun times in Brooklyn. And, but I'd rather have that than have leadership that's poor, stupid paperwork, the bureaucracy of the criminal justice system. Like, all of these things are stressors that like eat away at us, right? First of all, if there's anything that you'd like to talk about, which was kind of like highlight what's the stressor that you each faced individually and maybe together as a married couple, what were the stressors that were the worst? And then what do you do to like cope, and what do you do to relieve the stress?
So I can speak from my perspective. We started seeing each other very early in my career. I was probably only here about a year. And couple that with the fact that I'm a female, and that created, it stifled, I felt like it was stifling my growth in the agency, because I wasn't afforded, and again, this is just my opinion, I wasn't afforded the same opportunities for lateral movement into special positions or anything like that because I was the sergeant's wife, or just getting selected because I was the sergeant's wife and they're doing a favor, not because my work ethic or my work product demonstrated that I deserved the opportunity, but it actually, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but worked heavily against me to be the sergeant's wife. So at only 6 years on, I was like, the only thing they're not going to be able to stop me from doing is getting promoted. So at the earliest option I was able to, and I felt confident in the skills that I had learned, the foundational knowledge I developed throughout my experience at that point. 6 years on, I took the sergeant's test and I got promoted from that sergeant's test. And I finished at the very top of the list. And I'm like, I'm not going to give them a reason to tell me that I can't be promoted. And then fast forward with lieutenant, same thing. My performance, I think, spoke volumes of who I was as an employee for the town of Davie. But I think just the mere fact that being married to a supervisor that had been here for 10 years, he already had experience. And then I'm this young girl that's coming in and just trying to like mooch off the sergeant. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't even like that. So I felt like I had to make a concerted effort to excel my career because it wasn't going to come easy for me. And I worked for everything. Let me tell you.
She did, and I stayed away and stayed out of everything that had to do with her. I never, people would come to me and say something. If somebody would complain about something she did, or if another supervisor came to me to say, hey, about something, I'm like, no, I'm out of it. This is between you. Even if she came to me and wanted to complain about something, about another supervisor or another officer, I'm like, nope, you need to go to your supervisor. You need to, I wanted to keep that separation because I wanted that for her so that they could see her work ethic because she excelled at everything. And she always got, oh, that's just because she's Sean's wife. And I'm like, what? She's better than everybody here, and she's better than me. And you're gonna say it's because of me? It's not because of me. She earned it. And then that's why in her career she passed me. I was a sergeant, she was a lieutenant. She went, because that's how good she is.
Wow, that's great. All right, so now talk to me about how you guys relieve stress. And I think that Patty has something she wants to show us that's right behind her on the shelf there, as like maybe one of the tools that she uses that they use to relieve stress. Yeah.
So, so these beautiful little mugs back here are from Starbucks. If you're a Starbucks Starby like me. So what we do, because we live so close to ports, we're very lucky. Our outlet is like cruising. I cannot explain what happens to you when I walk on board a cruise ship. It is just like every weight is lifted off my shoulders. I don't have the stress of worrying about phone calls because I'm a lieutenant and I'm a lieutenant in administration. So I'm never really truly off, right? I'm not like, I mean, the benefit of working road patrol or like, the patrol shift is that you come to work, you work your 40 hours, and unless you're a supervisor for a specialized unit, you're not bothered on your days off. But when you work in a specialized unit in administration, in a detective bureau, and internal affairs, whatever, you're constantly on call for anything that may happen or go on. And we actually deployed body worn cameras about a year ago. So we're still navigating that program as it's growing and evolving. And so I'm always like available, and I still have a lot of administrative stuff. So I bring my laptop with me to work sometimes, or, like when I'm away sometimes. But it's just like, for us, we exercise. We are have a very routine exercise routine, and we vacation with cruises. That's what we do.
Excellent. Excellent. Sean, anything else you want to add?
I play some sport, like I golf. Golfing for me is a great way to be in nature and be out there and, be with the guys and it just, you can, like Patty said, like when she goes on a cruise ship, you see this difference in her where she can just shut down and focus on just relaxing. Because at home, she can't. It's just go, 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 go. Always on the phone, always texting, always calling somebody on the computer. But on a cruise ship, she's laying, sleeping in or laying on the sun deck and that's why we love it so much because we can turn that off and then just not focus on anything from from here, from home, until we get back. And when we get back, then, you know, then it all kicks back
And
in.
you have to have that outlet because it is very challenging to be in this profession and try to surround yourself with personal relationships that don't just include police. Pretty
Right.
much all of our closest friends are cops.
Right.
And
Yeah, and then when you meet somebody who's not a cop, they want to talk about police work.
Yeah,
So you know how that is all the time. And then,
Right.
so if you ever, when you get into this job, you have to have an outlet. If you don't have an outlet, that you won't make it. You won't make it in this job, because this job will eat you up. It will eat you up. But if you have that outlet, you have something that's gonna, a de-stressor. It could be anything. People like to go to the gym, or you know,
read a book.
read a book, or go on the internet, whatever it is, but you have to have something that's not police work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really good to hear that you have the ability on a cruise to unplug and not respond to text messages unless they're from Dr. Telesco.
100%.
And twice I got you on a
That's okay.
cruise. Twice. And I was like, God, you're always on a cruise? Like what? No,
It's
but
on
you're
my
so
mind.
good to me. You're so
She
good.
gets one. So what we do is there's a Starbucks on certain cruise ships of Royal Caribbean. So Oasis class or higher cruise ships have a Starbucks in it, a freestanding one. So when they do, they have a mug that's for the ship. So I buy that for her. So you know, we'll that's our thing. We're gonna collect those. Or if we travel somewhere where we've never been, if we go somewhere where we've never been, we go to a Starbucks and buy a cup so she can have that collection.
Awesome. And she also has an amazing challenge coin collection, which I have some challenge coin envy right now, especially with the holder. So Dr. Castro said he's going to buy that for me. He actually owes that to me when I turned 65. He said he was going to buy that for me. But speaking of Dr. Castro, I just want to, I'm just kidding. I know he's on watching, so that's why I'm saying it. I want to just relay what he wrote in the chat. He said, having met this amazing couple in person, I can attest that they're the most down to earth, warm human beings in policing. The town of Davie is fortunate to have them, and they're amazing together. And that's from Dr. Castro.
Well,
you so
thank
much.
you.
So look, we have a lot of really great questions. I'm going to stop my questions and I'm going to pass this to my production team. We're going to start with Annie, if that's okay. And I don't know who's doing what, but we have YouTube chat and we have webinar chat as well, and they might have the questions themselves. I don't know, but I'd like to start with Annie. This is Ansouvé Jean-Louis, and she is graduating in May. She's with the College of Psychology, and she's one of our project managers. You may have met her. I don't remember. I don't know if Annie was part of the recruitment video that we did for Davie. Were you, Annie?
Well,
No.
I think not the recruitment video. I think, but the trainings that we did with Nova, I was part of. So I think it was two different projects.
Yeah. So anyway, do you have what are you going to handle? Are you going to handle YouTube or are you going to handle the webinar?
I've got the webinar questions.
Okay, excellent. Go for it.
Okay, so first of all, thank you guys for coming out tonight. So the first question we have is from Dave, who asked, what difficulties did you two face working together? So you guys kind of touched on that already, but if there's anything just like additional that you think like didn't come up, or maybe something that would be something that people wouldn't expect.
I have it. So when we were both sergeants, you talk about difficulties.
This was what I was thinking.
It's not difficult for me because I can just move on. But when we were both sergeants, we actually worked the same shift together and we had one day different from one another. Not only do we work the same shift together with one day different, we shared an office because the sergeant's offices have 4 to an office. So if we were like angry because we had some upset at home
Tell 'em the
before work came,
Computers faced each other, so you have to look
Yes.
at each other.
so we would come to work and have to sit in this office with each other, like completely upset with one another, and then just go into roll call like nothing ever happened. And me, I could like totally turn it off. I'm just like, hey, everybody, how are you? You know, and then walk into the office and not say a word to him. So that became a little bit challenging for him because he's much more emotional than I am. So he wasn't able to kind of like, you know, push aside the differences that we that we had. Like you would see that he's upset, talking from a personal level. As far as like any work related issues, I think we did a really good job of separating our personal life from our work life. So I think with the exception of me finding like, early on in my career, the stifling of my advancement was a big issue and a point of contention for us. And I can imagine for other like married couples too, especially when one's a boss and the other is not. And the person who's not the boss feels like I can never get anywhere here because I'm with you. Could that potentially affect the relationship? 100% it could. So I think we got through that
I
pretty
also
well.
think that in the beginning people were like, oh, they would they would they would have a problem with her or I, oh, he's protecting her, or oh, she only gets what she gets because of him. And but once they started to see our work ethic and how we work and what we did out there, because we would work separate sides of the city. It wasn't like we were always together. Yes, we had lunch together, we had dinner together every night. We would meet. And but when our calls, I wouldn't show up on every one of her calls. She wouldn't show up on every one of my calls. We would keep our separation and do our job. And then when people saw that, they were like, you know what? They're not like the typical, like what we thought they were. So it kind of stopped after a while.
That, and then when one of us had like a critical incident and the other one's on the other side of the city, and it's like you can't get to your spouse knowing that he's, like I think you had like a shooting on the, oh no, you had a fight at
Oh,
Galaxy Skateway,
yeah.
as a
Well,
matter
there's
of
a good
fact.
one. That's a good story. So I was working a detail at Galaxy Skateway, and she was working
The
the,
west side.
the west side of the city as the sergeant, and she couldn't come over because she's working the other side of the city. And then I had gotten on a radio because there was a fight, and then the guy jumped on my back, and then I'm fighting two people, and I'm screaming on the radio, I need help here. And then she has to hear that, and knowing that she can't make it because, it's going to be forever for her to come from the west side of the city all the way to where I am. So that's kind of got to be crazy.
And I think that applies for any like close relationship that you develop in this job with anybody that you're close to. I mean, but most significantly for your significant other.
Yes, yes. Any others?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And this next question from Bailey North actually kind of is like a perfect segue into what you're just talking about. So pretty much they asked, can intimate relationships between officers lead to a conflict of interest? And what are the potential risks of romantic relationships between officers?
It's big because we have a lot of officers here that have had relationships with each other, and the what we've already talked about of one person kind of losing respect because they think that they're only getting it because of the other person, or if the relationship goes bad. When the relationship goes bad, it's very, very difficult to work together. If the person's supervisor, or even if the person you're on the same shift, because this is a small agency. We're only 218 sworn officers, so you can't go and hide. Like if you
Right.
have a relationship with another officer and it goes bad, you're going to see them every day. You're going to have to deal with them. You're going to be on a call with them, or you're going to, it's the sheriff's office may be different. You could transfer to different districts, but
Right.
here, that
Yep.
that's probably the downfall
I
of
think
it.
the only thing that works in a favor of anybody that's in a romantic relationship that fizzles out or doesn't work out, you have 3 different shifts that you can work and a whole series of different sets of days off, so you can separate from one another most of the time. But still, at the end of the day, we're all brothers and sisters in blue.
You're
We're all
gonna be
gonna help each
training
other.
together,
Yeah.
work
Allow those
together.
personal feelings
There's a
to.
saying that comes to mind. I don't think I want to say it out loud because, but anyway, you can think about it.
Yeah.
But so you guys are actually role models for it working.
Right.
That's great. Annie, any others?
Yes, actually, we got 2 more questions while you guys were answering that. I'm gonna probably end at these 2 questions so that
Good,
like if
please.
YouTube, they can also jump in.
Yes.
Um, but Jennifer asked, having worked in various specialized divisions in policing, which division do you feel highlighted your individual strengths the best?
I
Good
think for
question.
me, we started a youth services program in like 2016. I mean, we had school resource officers, but after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas happened, we ended up putting officers in every single school. Plus we had Nova Southeastern. We have officers assigned there. For those of you that are students, I'm sure you've seen them over there. So for me, because I really love to talk to people and I really love like that interaction and that intimate engagement with people, I feel like what was most beneficial to me in my profession and to the people that I served was my time in youth services, where I got to go over to the college and I got to influence people as they're trying to navigate their career pathing or their, which direction they're going to go into life. And then coupling that with being a mom, having that age children, it was helpful for me to impact from a different perspective, not from like an enforcement perspective, but more from like a community policing, like let's just talk like real people here. Did that answer the question?
And then for me, it was being a detective. Being a detective because I love children. When I was a detective for crimes against children and in that unit, that was my most rewarding time. That was what
Talk about that case.
to the point to where I had a case with a little girl. Some terrible things happened to her. She was 6 or 7 years old, but I made an influence in her life to the point that she was at my retirement walkout, like 25 years later. She made sure she came because I made that much of an impact in her life, which everything to me. That makes being a cop worth it. All the crap, all the ups and downs, all the everything was that she was standing there that day. It was amazing. So I think that was it for me.
Beautiful.
That's powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Annie, on your end?
There's one more question.
Okay, go for
So
it.
also I feel like kind of similar to what you guys were just talking about. Dr. Britton or Dr. Brighton, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It looks like Dr. Britton asked, how do you support each other during difficult times, such as high stress incidents or traumatic experiences? So, for example, you guys kind of mentioned like Marjorie Stoneman Douglas or kind of cases where you're working with children, especially just one, like as a married couple in law enforcement, but especially as parents. I'm sure like there's a certain level of emotional sensitivity having to deal with those situations. So, how are you guys able to kind of just help each other navigate through those experiences?
I can tell you, when you're actively involved in a critical incident, you're just so focused on like paying attention to what's going on and getting everybody home safe. And you don't really like start to break down until you get home and kind of like everything's resonating through your mind. And for us, it's just about talking to each other, communicating, effective communication in a marriage. First of all, and then the foundation of any marriage is important, but specifically when you're in law enforcement and you have this heightened level of stress from one, and you go from here to here in 10 seconds, and being able to go home and just have somebody who can actively listen. And I'll tell you, our experience as hostage negotiators played a huge impact in us being able to communicate and being like available and present when the other person's talking. And that in itself just is all it takes, all it had taken for us to be able to navigate the stressors of our profession and being parents. That's fun.
The police work is awesome because I'll tell you, we work together, same agency, same shift, but we experience different things because nothing is ever the same in police work. No call is the same, no situation is the same. Every day is a different day. Every day is something new. So we would always go to talk about like, hey, how was your day? And we would have stuff to talk about because even though we worked on the same shift, she saw things I didn't see, or I saw things she didn't see. So
Right. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Those are really awesome questions. I'm going to ask for Cameron to come on. Is Cameron going to be doing the rest, Annie, of the webinar or what?
There's no more for the webinar, so it'll be the questions from YouTube.
Okay, cool, cool. So Cam, could you come on a minute and then you could like maybe read one question and then have Eddie read another two or something.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up the YouTube. I didn't have that open.
Sure. Eddie, are you ready to go? If Eddie's ready to go, we could just not waste any time and just jump right in with the question. Yes, no, maybe.
Hi, sorry, my camera
Okay,
didn't want
good.
to start.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Let's
So,
see. Yeah.
go ahead.
So, we got a couple of questions on the YouTube. Someone asked, what does life look after policing for you guys, and do you plan to continue working together?
That's pretty
That's a good question. I think
Oh,
that's Dr.
what
Castro's.
life is the greatest thing ever is, and Dr. T knows this, is retirement. I mean, when you're done with police work, it's a great career, but when you're done, it's a good feeling. And we'd like to move somewhere in the middle of the country, maybe hopefully Tennessee, and have some beautiful mountains and some great weather. And um Patty still wants to keep working. She wants to do teaching. She would, and I think she would be excellent at it. But as for police work, 30 years is plenty. Time to do something different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, look, yeah, I had a thing. I retired at the rank of lieutenant. I was a commanding officer. I had a big sheet on my wall with all of the different weeks. And when I would finish a week, I put a line, put a line, put a line, and that was it. Like I literally counted down my retirement. And now looking back in the rearview mirror, boy, that was the greatest time of my life. There was no other time like it. And I often say that, being at NSU is like, makes me feel a little bit like I felt with NYPD, as like this amazing group of people to work with. But I really I miss policing. I miss it. I miss it. And I'm sorry that I was so anxious to get out. Now that I'm out and I can't go back and it's done, I miss it. It was the greatest time of my life. And I'm sorry that that's a regret that I have, that I didn't put more time in. I just did 20 and out, and that was it. And there's nothing that has ever matched it. Nothing.
Yeah. So I'm actually starting my 19th year in May, and the reason why I'm pursuing my master's degree is specifically because I want to be able to teach, and I don't want to be like a ancillary teacher, how do you call that? Like a adjunct professor. I wanted to teach at the collegiate level, because if I can take what I have learned, and specifically for me is leadership, if I can take what I have learned through my time in this career and I can impact the future of this profession and make a difference through others, that's my goal. I don't have any aspirations to be a police officer after this. I love my job. It comes with a lot of stress. It's a rewarding profession, but I think that there's a way that I can still feel like that it would be rewarding just through a teaching mechanism. Like, he retired in 2022, and he stayed on his 24. I don't think it's been
Not
only
been
a
that
year.
long.
Anyway, he tells me quite often, he's like, I don't know why anybody wants to go back to work. Like, he truly just enjoys being retired, but the benefit for him is that he remains as a reserve. So he's
So I still get a little bit of the police work,
connected.
because like you were saying, Dr. T, the job is just, you love it, and it's very hard you do miss the people and the connection. I still get a little bit of that, but I
Yeah.
still get the retirement because I don't have to be here every day, 40 hours a week. I can just come, a couple 1 or 2 days a month, and I get my feeling, and then I can go back to doing my
You
thing.
get your fix.
Yeah.
You get your fix on.
Imagine for you too, Dr. T, like, you're present always in the CPA courses, and you come and you still want to have that little hand in being a part of the police world. So that gives you an opportunity. Plus you're teaching.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but it's different, it's just different. No matter how much I could do role plays until the cows come home. But it's not the same, and and there's times when I'm just like, I think I'd like to leave academia and I'd like to go back into policing, in some capacity. But then it's just like, wait a second, be careful what you're asking for right now. Just,
that long.
just be careful, because I would like to retire someday and play with the horses, like, because that's why I moved. I moved so that I could have the horses, and I've got them, and I want to be with them.
Yeah.
I don't want to work anymore, but hey, somebody's got to feed the horses. So I got to work.
Yeah. I will
All
tell you,
right.
there's times that I do get to work overtime on patrol, and I make it a point to go out and be engaged with those that are out in the road. Like, and then I'm like, gosh, I really miss being a cop. I miss being like a real cop, not sitting at my computer and doing like the back end stuff. And I don't think people really understand how much goes into the administrative part of making sure you have the funding and the equipment and all those things, all the tools that the officers need to carry out their job and
Exactly.
make sure that they're protected when they're out there.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Hey, Cameron, can you can you give us a little YouTube?
Yes, yes, I can.
Perfect. All right, let me spotlight you. Go ahead.
Okay, we have a question from Kiki that says, when it comes to dating in the same department, did you guys have to keep your relationship in secret, or were there any hardships announcing it to your supervisors or peers?
So we were not open about it at the very beginning because we were still trying to navigate like where it was going to go, but we didn't have at the time any mandates that we had to disclose our relationship status. Fast forward, now it's a requirement that if you're in a dating or interpersonal relationship, you have to disclose that. They actually have you fill out a paper that you have to disclose it. And if you're in like a supervisor subordinate relationship, you can't work in the same shift or reporting for one another. So luckily for he and I, by the time that came out, we were both sergeants, so we could still work together. But then, as a matter of fact, I got promoted to lieutenant first, and he was working in a different division. But when he got promoted to captain, I had to leave patrol because he was going to be the captain of patrol and I was a lieutenant. So it was that direct rank, like subordinate supervisor relationship. So the chief called me and he's like, we're going to make him a captain, but that means that you got to leave patrol. And I'm like, oh, I'll go wherever you need me. But
Yeah.
so that was a little sacrifice for us too, because I didn't want to leave patrol, but it's short term for him.
Right, right. Wow. Awesome. Well, listen, we're out of time. Any closing thoughts, maybe for anybody who might be watching, in terms of like police work, relationships within policing? Any last words that you'd like to offer?
If anybody wants to be a police officer, we're hiring.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
yes.
desperately need good people.
We have a lot of vacancies right now. We actually just put out a new posting for those who are non-certified with incentive options. I'll share them with you guys really quick. If you are not a certified law enforcement officer and you are in the state of Florida, where did that go? Please
It's right
hold.
there, $5,000.
No, this one's certified. Just 1 second, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Police officer trainee. Here we go. So currently, a candidate possesses an associate's degree or equivalent to 60 credit hours or higher for an accredited colleges. There's a $5,000 sign-on bonus upon hire, and then a $5,000 additional bonus or incentive upon successful completion of probation, which is 1 year. If you don't have a degree, but you have a high school diploma, you still are eligible for the $5,000 sign-on bonus. Then you'll get a $2,500 incentive bonus upon successful completion of probation, which is after the year, and an additional $2,500 after completing 5 years. So we've changed. Initially, you had to be 21 to work for the town of Davie, and you also had to have an associate's degree or 60 college credits. So now the age is 19, and you can actually start the job and get the incentives without being having a degree. But there is additional incentive to encourage you to continue your education. And I will tell you, as a master's degree student now, I cannot express any more deeply the value in education and the networking opportunities that you get through expanding your education. There's so much to learn in this job and so many different avenues to navigate to be an effective police officer or leader or whatever it is that you're interested in this profession. If you have an interest in law enforcement, I'm going back to patrol in April. I've been in support services for 3 years, and they want to get all the lieutenants the experience they need to just think about the future of the department, because as
Right.
a lot of people retire, you have to fill gaps or whatever. So
Yes.
that's my goal when I go back to patrol, is just to really connect with with the officers, especially these younger ones, and just really express to them the value that comes with higher education.
Great.
Know that the town of Davie is this is one of the I've worked other places before, so this city, the residents love us. They're very supportive of us. This is like kind of it's a family. So this kind of city is a great place to live, you know, and it is a great place to work. So I mean, if anyone, you know, if you're
Perfect segue, man, into the, Davie, where you could live, work, and play.
Oh, yes.
yes.
And let me just play this. Come on.
Oh, we don't hear the volume, Dr. T. Did you hear me?
Dr. T, there's no sound.
No sound.
You have the heart, determination, and commitment to help others. Make the decision to be a public servant and choose Davie PD. Contact us. We'll help you take the next step to make the Davie Police Department your home. Davie is the town where you can live, work, and play. Come join the Davie Police Department and be part of something great.
And there is the QR code. And yes, that was actually developed by NSU School of Criminal Justice.
If you go on to governmentjobs.com, you can actually look up our postings and see what the incentive programs are. If you're interested.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I can't say enough about how much I love you, and I can't say enough about how much this was probably one of my favorites, one of my favorite investigation with Dr. T's. And Patty, can I ask you to come on and be on? Maybe Sean, you'd be on too, and we could do something that's a little bit more, individualized for both of you.
Anytime.
Okay, great.
As long as we play in advance, because I got 16 cruises for 2025.
You with the cruises. All right. All right. Thanks, guys. And
Take
thank you to all of my students that are watching. Thank you, Dr. Castro, Dr. Kushner, Dr. Durham, for all of their support and everything that they do for us to support the work that we do. Please tune in next Thursday. And I'm trying to think. I'm thinking, who is it? Who's going to be the guest? See, now this is my production team. Look at how quick they answer. It's awesome. Wait, never mind. I'll just look at it myself. It's Ed Denzel. It's Ed. You see, now I looked it up and I still can't hear them. Where are they? Where'd they go? They left.
I was trying to pull it up.
You said it before me.
My hands can only move so fast, Dr. T.
Okay.
And I only got 2 of them.
Okay. I'm just teasing you. You're fine. It's Ed Denzel next week. It's about the missing persons, anatomy of a missing persons case. And I know that all you true crime people love that. So we'll see you next Thursday. Thank you to everyone. Eddie Hammonds. Thank you to Cameron Brown. Thank you to Ansauvé Jean-Louis and my power couple, retired Captain Sean Ravine and Lieutenant